The manila folder slipped from my fingers, scattering performance reviews across the polished floor like autumn leaves. I froze in the doorway of the executive office, my breath catching as Sarah Mitchell stood there in a medical compression garment, her arms crossed protectively over the surgical scars that mapped her chest. Our eyes met, hers wide with vulnerability, mine probably reflecting the same shock coursing through my veins. "We'll pretend you didn't see anything, right?" Her voice was steady, but I caught the tremor underneath, the silent plea of someone whose armor had just shattered. I should have nodded. Should have backed out and sealed this moment in a vault of professional amnesia. Instead, I did something that would change both our lives forever. I stayed, ***. 27 months. That's how long I'd worked as Sarah Mitchell's executive assistant at Cornerstone Financial Group in downtown Chicago. 27 months of arriving before dawn to have her coffee ready, of anticipating her needs before she voiced them, of watching her navigate boardrooms filled with men who underestimated her until she demolished their assumptions with precision and grace. She was formidable. Brilliant. The kind of boss who made you want to exceed your own limitations. She was also, I'd always thought, utterly invincible. Marcus, she reached for the silk blouse draped over her desk chair, her movements careful, almost fragile. This wasn't the Sarah Mitchell who commanded quarterly meetings or negotiated million-dollar deals without breaking a sweat. This was someone else entirely. Someone human. Someone hurting. "I'm so sorry, Ms. Mitchell," I managed, bending to gather the scattered papers. "I should have knocked. The door was open, and I thought you'd already left for the Henderson meeting." "The meeting?" She closed her eyes, and for just a second, I saw exhaustion settle over her features like a heavy cloak. "What time is it?" 2:30. "You asked me to remind you at 2. She turned away, carefully pulling the blouse over her shoulders. I kept my eyes fixed on the papers in my hands, giving her what privacy remained. When she spoke again, her voice had regained some of its usual composure. "The Henderson meeting." "Right. Give me 5 minutes. Ms. Mitchell." I straightened up, the papers clutched against my chest. "You don't have to go. I can call and reschedule." "Tell them you're." "Tell them what, exactly?" She turned back to face me, and now she was buttoning her blouse with steady fingers, each movement deliberate. "That I'm recovering from a double mastectomy? That I've been coming into this office 3 days post-surgery because if I show any weakness, Peterson and the board will use it as an excuse to question my fitness for leadership?" The bitterness in her voice cut through the air between us. I'd never heard her sound like that before. Defeated. Angry. Real. "They wouldn't. Wouldn't they?" She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Marcus, you've been in those boardrooms. You've heard the comments when they think I'm out of earshot. Too emotional. Too aggressive. Not quite leadership material. I've spent 15 years proving them wrong, and I'll be damned if I give them ammunition now." I stood there, watching her transform back into the woman I knew. Shoulders squared. Chin lifted. Every trace of vulnerability locked away behind professional composure. And I realized, with a clarity that hit me like a physical blow, that she'd been doing this every single day. Walking through pain and fear while pretending everything was perfectly fine. Bearing weight that would have crushed most people, all alone. "What do you need?" The question escaped before I could think better of it. She paused, one hand resting on her desk. "Excuse me? What do you need?" I repeated, meeting her eyes directly. "Not for the Henderson meeting. Not for the board. What do you actually need right now?" For a long moment, she just stared at me. Then something shifted in her expression, a crack in the facade, small but significant. "I need." She swallowed hard. "I need to sit down for about 30 seconds before I fall down. But I can't, because Henderson is waiting, and this deal has been 6 months in the making, Anne." Henderson can wait. I pulled out her desk chair. Please. Sit. Marcus. Ms. Mitchell. Sarah. I'd never used her first name before. It felt strange on my tongue, too familiar and yet somehow necessary. Sit down. Let me make a call. 5 minutes won't kill the deal. She lowered herself into the chair with the careful movements of someone navigating pain. As I reached for her phone, she caught my wrist. Her grip was lighter than I expected. Why are you doing this? The question hung between us, loaded with more than simple curiosity. It was really asking, why aren't you pretending? Why aren't you following the script? Why aren't you making this easier by acting like nothing happened? Because pretending doesn't help anyone, I said quietly. And because you've been dealing with this alone for long enough. I made the call. Henderson's assistant was surprisingly understanding when I explained that Ms. Mitchell had been delayed by an urgent matter and would need to reschedule. 20 minutes, not 5. As I hung up, I found Sarah watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. How did you know? She asked finally. About dealing with it alone? I pulled up a chair across from her, settling into a decision I hadn't quite consciously made yet. My mom, I said. Stage 3 breast cancer, 7 years ago. She was a vice principal at a middle school. Kept working through chemo because she said the kids needed her. Kept pretending she was fine because admitting otherwise felt like admitting defeat. Did she? Sarah's voice trailed off. She's in remission. Celebrated 5 years cancer-free last spring. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. But those months nearly destroyed her. Not the cancer. The isolation. The feeling that she had to be strong for everyone else, that showing weakness was somehow failing. It wasn't until she finally let people help, really help, that she started healing. Not just physically. The rest of it too. Sarah was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. I don't know how to do that. Let people help. I've spent my entire career being the strong one. The one who has all the answers. The one who never breaks. Maybe that's the problem. She looked up sharply, but I pressed on before she could retreat behind her walls again. Everyone breaks sometimes, Ms. Mitchell. Being strong doesn't mean never showing cracks. It means being brave enough to ask for support when you need it. And right now, whether you want to admit it or not, you need it. I can't afford to need it. Not here. Not in this position. Then what was your plan? Keep pushing until you collapse? Work through recovery like it's nothing? Hope nobody notices? Yes. The word came out flat, matter of fact. That was exactly my plan. Because the alternative is watching 15 years of work crumble because I had the audacity to be human. The resignation in her voice broke something in me. I thought about my mother, working herself to exhaustion to prove cancer hadn't beaten her. I thought about all the times I'd watched her struggle alone, too proud or too afraid to reach out. I thought about the day she'd finally broken down in our kitchen, sobbing in my father's arms, and how that moment of surrender had been the beginning of real healing. What if it doesn't have to be that way? I heard myself say. What if there's another option? Like what? Like letting me help. Really help. Not just as your assistant, but as someone who understands what you're going through. Someone who can cover the things you can't handle right now, who can be your buffer when you need one, who can make sure you actually take care of yourself while you recover. Sarah shook her head. Marcus, you're already doing more than your job description. I can't ask. You're not asking. I'm offering. I held her gaze, willing her to understand. And before you say no, think about this. What serves Cornerstone better? You burning out and potentially having to take medical leave, or you accepting help from someone you trust so you can recover properly and come back stronger? That's